Hey everyone, welcome to the 700 Club. I'm Andrew Knox in for Gordon Robertson today. The knives are out. During his announcement to run for the Republican nomination, Chris Christie slashed former President Donald Trump, calling him a self-serving mirror hog.
Well, Trump hit back with a personal attack of his own on the former New Jersey governor. Christie is just one of the 3 newcomers to the expanding GOP field. CBN's Brody Carter reports on the increasing animosity among the contenders.
A lonely, self-consumed, self-serving mirror hog is not a leader.
Former New Jersey governor and federal prosecutor Chris Christie wasted no time going after former President Donald Trump, calling him, quote, a bitter, angry man, and that his time in office was a failure.
Beware of the leader in this country who you have handed leadership to, who has never made a mistake, who has never done anything wrong, who when something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, and who has never lost.
Christie's entrance comes ahead of the former vice president's announcement Wednesday. Mike Pence making it official by releasing a campaign video this morning.
Today, our party and our country need a leader that will appeal, as Lincoln said, to the better angels of our nature.
And North Dakota's Governor Doug Burgum also announced his bid today. These contenders will enter a crowded field, including Trump's former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. By week's end, an expected 12 candidates will be fighting for the Republican ticket. With Trump leading the field, his strongest rival is DeSantis, who's already on the campaign trail criticizing his policies.
Fauciism was destructive. Fauciism should have never happened.
As Republicans find their footing with the American people, Trump is fighting back, bashing opponents on Truth Social, pointing to poll numbers and a, quote, lack of personality against Ron DeSantis, and this gimmick, mocking Christie's weight after his announcement Tuesday.
And I wondered what our choice was going to be. Were we going to be small, or were we going to be big?
As the primary field expands, Republican leaders not in the running, like New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, are encouraging those who don't have a shot against Trump to drop out.
I mean, there could be 12 people that get in. The key, the discipline, is getting out. The discipline is come November, late December. If you're sitting in low, single digits, get your butt out of the race. Let's narrow this thing down to 2 or 3 candidates and really figure out where the party's going to go.
New Republican National Committee debate rules could limit the GOP primary field, establishing a key fundraising threshold while requiring candidates to pledge support for the eventual party nominee. The first debate is scheduled for August 23rd. Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thank you, Brody. Our friend and colleague and CBN chief political analyst David Brody joins us now. And David, you must love this time of year, everybody jumping in, whether they have a chance or not. Well, up until now, most candidates have been careful not to criticize Trump directly. We're seeing a change in that. How will this change the race?
It's a great question, Andrew. Yes, this is my favorite time of year. Okay, Christmas is first. I'll admit that, but this is definitely right up there. Look, I think Chris Christie really does change this race, not because he can win the nomination. I don't think anybody thinks he can win the nomination, I guess, except for Chris Christie. But he changes it for a couple of reasons. But the main reason is because he's going to attack Donald Trump day in and day out. That is good news for, wait for it, Ron DeSantis, who doesn't have to necessarily play the bad guy as much as he really might have to otherwise. Instead, Chris Christie's going to do that job, and therefore Ron DeSantis, it'll help him most likely with his poll numbers where he can concentrate on policy, and I think that's the way it's going to go. This Trump-Christie stuff on the debate stage, and it will happen on the debate stage at some point, is going to be downright nasty. It already is nasty, Andrew.
Yeah, before we get to Mike Pence, with Chris Christie and Trump, I mean, is this more personal than political? Because Christie supported Trump, they were friends, we presumed, and now it is nasty quick. I mean, is this more personal than anything?
Yeah, it's personal. It's a bit geographical, right? I mean, Trump's from New York, Christie's from New Jersey, and they both have a rough and tumble spirit. And let's also not forget that Chris Christie was in the running, actually, to be Donald Trump's vice presidential nominee at the time. I mean, just think about that, and look how far or look how low they have both gone at that point.
Well, someone trying not to take the low road, Vice President Mike Pence, is appealing to the better angels of our nature. Real different strategy. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, the video is out. His campaign kickoff video is out, and I thought it was excellent, actually. And look, I mean, he's going to run for not just president, but town sheriff of Iowa. I mean, that's what he's doing. He's going to go to all 99 counties, and the strategy is very clear. It's Iowa or bust for Mike Pence. He hopes evangelicals are going to propel him to the #1 slot. And let's be clear, if he's going to spend all that time in Iowa, he has to win Iowa. Not #2, not #3. He has to win Iowa. If he can win Iowa, and of course we know South Carolina is #3 in the process there, then you've got a lot of evangelicals in South Carolina. And what he's hoping for here in a pie-in-the-sky scenario, best-case scenario, is that he wins Iowa and wins South Carolina, and then everybody else gets out of the race, and he is the last man standing against Donald Trump. Look, it's an uphill climb. It is Mount Everest, if you will, for Mike Pence. But, look, I think he's doing this, honestly, because January 6th changed everything, and I think he wants to see the Republican Party return to some traditional normalcy. I think that's the reason he's doing this.
Interesting. Well, the field has grown quickly this week, and Governor Chris Sununu is calling on some candidates to drop out already. How does the growing field actually help Donald Trump?
Yeah, well, it does, obviously, just from a mathematical situation. I wasn't great in math, but the last time I checked, if you've got a pie and you got kind of all different splinters, if all of that takes away votes from, let's say, Ron DeSantis, that's going to help Donald Trump. So, yeah, it all helps Donald Trump. But what Chris Sununu hit on was very, very interesting. And this is the #1 thing that I'm going to be looking at as we move forward, which is when do all of these other candidates get out of the race? In other words, if you're sitting at 2%, 3%, 4%, at some point, you all have to coalesce around one candidate that will take on Trump mano a mano, whether it be before Iowa or after Iowa. Some of these candidates might get out before Iowa, so we're going to wait and see on that. Remember, Andrew, in 2016, a lot of folks wanted Marco Rubio to get out of the race and back Ted Cruz and have one solid challenger to Donald Trump. That happened way too late. It was too late. Trump became the nominee. I don't think that'll happen this time around.
All right, last question. The GOP released its rules for debates this week. Keep it simple for me. How will that winnow down the field?
It's good. Well, look, at this point, it's going to happen in late August, and there will be about 6 or 7 candidates on the debate stage because you only need 1% in national polls, pretty much. I think the interesting part, and you need 40,000 unique donors. That's the bottom line. But one interesting part that the Republican Party, the RNC, put into this is that you have to pledge to support the eventual nominee. Well, Chris Christie is not going to support Donald Trump, so is he going to get on the debate stage? There's going to be a lot of interesting questions going forward on that. And Donald Trump is also not necessarily going to support the final nominee if it's not him, for sure.
Yeah, will they make the pledge, and will they keep it? David, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
You bet.
In other news, tens of millions of Americans are facing health risks from the air they breathe. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Andrew. 80 million Americans are under air quality advisories. The cause? Smoke from more than 400 wildfires burning across Canada. Officials there say about half are burning out of control. Wind has been carrying the smoke as far south as North Georgia, bringing a haze to New York and other places. New York City had the worst air quality of any city in the world on Tuesday. The Environmental Protection Agency issued poor air quality alerts in New England as far west as Illinois, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. The smoke can worsen symptoms for people suffering from asthma and allergies. Authorities are urging those at risk to stay indoors. Well, turning now to Ukraine and the collapse of a critical dam that's flooding villages and farmland. The waters threatening crops and drinking water and forcing mass evacuations, as well as putting Europe's largest nuclear power plant at risk. All this as Ukraine might be starting a major counteroffensive against Russia. As CBN's Wendy Griffith reports, both sides are blaming each other for the catastrophe.
Evacuations are underway after the wall of a major dam that Moscow controls collapsed following an explosion. The result? Massive flooding now endangering Europe's largest nuclear power plant and threatening drinking water. Homes, streets, and businesses flooded downstream as emergency crews raced to check cooling systems at the power plant. which U.S. officials say appears to be safe.
Is that the damage to the Ukrainian people and to the region will be significant. Its destruction could very well have a devastating impact on Ukraine's energy security.
Ukraine is accusing Russian forces of blowing up the dam and hydroelectric power station, while Russia blames Ukrainian military strikes in the area.
The destruction of the Kakhovka Dam today puts thousands of civilians at risk and causes severe environmental damage. This is an outrageous act which demonstrates once again the brutality of Russia's war in Ukraine.
The dam break added a stunning new dimension to Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Now in its 16th month, it's believed Ukrainian troops are moving forward with a long-anticipated counteroffensive. The Ukrainian army claimed to be gaining ground Monday along a wide front in the Bakhmut area, the epicenter of the fighting, and Russia admitting the spring advance may have begun as well. Meanwhile, the dam disaster could hinder Ukraine's counteroffensive in the south and complicate the advance of its forces. In the short term, some military experts say it's a win for Russia, at least until the water subsides. Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
16 months in, and we're seeing new levels of destruction and pain. Andrew?
Yeah, John, I was thinking that nearly a year and a half, and these people continue to find new ways to suffer as a result of this conflict or war. And, you know, Russia saying Ukraine sabotaged it so they could distract from their offensive. Please keep that entire region in prayer. And coming up next, we have a fascinating story.